Welcome back to another episode of Shifted Reality. My name is Minovate, and this is Season 2, Episode 26. That means we are a little bit over halfway through our Season 2, and we are just under halfway to our Season 2 goal of new subscribers. So if you could hit that like, comment, and subscribe button down below, maybe even share it with some of your friends, that would be greatly appreciated as we try to hit our goals and continue to grow the channel of a shifted reality. Now you may notice there's been some slight changes with path blocks around here, and this is just as I've been planning out what we want to do, because there's still some infrastructure and plenty of spaces that mobs pop up that we want to make this as safe as possible for all of our villagers to come and go and wander free as they please. Because this is a villager sanctuary, a happy place for villagers, not a place where they get locked up in little 1x1 squares, but a thriving village where anybody can come, trade, and get the goods and services they need from villagers in the environment that villagers were meant to thrive in. So there's 3 projects I want to get done today, and this is the first one. It's going to be a bit of a decorative one right here next to our church and between our 3 blacksmiths that we get all of our tools and equipment from. The second project is we're going to flatten out this area here and create a little bit of a row house just for general village occupancy. And again, our goal is to make places that are safe for villagers to move about, and there's a lot of workstations used as decorative blocks right behind me. So we're going to try and balance that by giving close spaces for villagers to occupy when they want to come and go and latch onto those particular workstations. And the third area is on the far side of our little horse pen here. And that's just generally, I need to put something in here just to fill in this space and make it a little bit more safe for villagers, because we are still getting some mob spawning here and especially over here. So what we're probably going to do is extend the retaining wall across here so we don't have a big dirt wall, and bring it back over towards our original build and figure out something to create a little bit of lightning here, even if it is currently just temporary, until we think of a better use for this particular space. Now, working a bit of a reverse order of the projects, you can see we've already put in a little bit of the retaining wall that we talked about. And we can certainly clean this up by putting grass or other elements down here. We still end up with an overall large space here that is going to be getting dark out when the sun sets, which is going to be soon. And not really a way to easily close off the area so that we can just, set it and forget it until later. So I kind of need to find out some idea of what exactly we will put into this spot. And I don't really want to crowd this in with more houses. I mean, we've already pretty crowded in as it is. We need something a little bit more decorative that's really going to let us bring some light into this area. So I decided my best course of action was just to dig out this area and continue around the retaining wall. And we're probably going to have to put something decorative here just so it's not just this sudden rapid drop off for the overhang over our river cave that's down here. So aiming to create some movement and some life, I ended up putting some holes into the retaining wall, added some black concrete into the back just to block off the area, so it just kind of looks like it goes into a dark tunnel a little bit. And from there we just take the water flow that comes out and we're just going to guide that down to flow over the river. And we're doing this just to create a little bit of a water runoff, a bit of a water feature. Like, they kind of built this area around knowing that it needed the drainage, and it creates a nice soothing little water feature right here that we can then decorate up and get some light in here. And because I don't really have too much of a plan for anything structure-wise to put into here other than this little garden, I went ahead and added some bone meal just to make it a little bit overgrown and give it that additional feel. Let's get some more lights in here. And while we do want the area to be lit up better, we don't necessarily want a bunch of glowstone sticking around. So we're just covering up the excess glowstone with some moss carpet. Just to get it to nice and blend in better. There, doesn't that make that area look a lot more complete and better off? Leave a comment down below if you think I missed any spots that could be improved. But let's move on to our second project of the day. Our second project has to do with our leather worker that was working at the station, and even though he was locked onto that little cauldron and had him locked into that bed, he still managed to disappear. Now I'm not sure if he disappeared as he wandered off and fell into a twilight zone somewhere, or if a mob killed him off. Either way, we have the issue of, well, just villagers disappearing on us, which is why we built up an additional stables just to get a few more. Now, the next group of villagers we bring in, we are not going to bother zombie purifying them because, well, we don't really care about their trades. We just want to make sure we have plenty of villagers wandering around our streets. And that is what brings us to our project over here. Not only will this project help us prevent mob spawning that may have been responsible for killing off our villager, it will also assist us in making sure that we have multiple places for villagers to bed down, come and go from, and maintain. Before we get to that, Specs Hall of all items has a need for the new warm chicken eggs that came with the last drop. So we are just going to run these over to her quick. This is the first time I'm actively using the new locator bar to try and locate somebody. So let's see how long this takes. Okay, back on track to finding Spec. I see her up there. How do I get up there? What is she collecting? It's back. So Spec was out here in the jungle looking for warm chickens, but I got her the eggs, so that should help. Now she just needs to go find the cold chickens, which is really on her because I have not yet seen any of them. Let's head home. Alright, so it's time to get back to our second project of the day, which was the villager row house. And I have to admit, when I first started this, I didn't have too much of a vision other than I wanted a long structure that would fill up this space and otherwise provide lots of beds for different villagers, because of course naturally we have all these random workstations we use as decorative blocks that we want to ultimately use and provide beds for, because villagers will lock onto them when they come about, and we wanted to have safe spaces for them, as well as providing light and mob proofing this general area. So we're just kind of going by what feels right in the moment. And I framed out a number of these little small rooms and used the different blocks similar to what I've been using for other pieces, just to kind of get that similar feel. And we're just kind of rolling with where we're going here. So this is all improv, and we will see how it looks. Now, at this point, we are more so focused on the exterior, what kind of basically window dressing or curb appeal we can give to this build. And I'm not too sure how to finish off the roof. I have these little, stall situation in the back with some back doors to the building, which admittedly is a bit unusual, but that's more so just to give a flow so villagers can come and go from either side of this, because let's be honest, villager pathfinding sucks. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Even with the doors, I'm actually thinking some wax copper doors might be a good idea. Just something nice and bright and vibrant to just kind of pop out and give some attention here. And through all of this process, we've been on the lookout for any areas that are still dark enough to allow mobs to spawn in this first level area. And that is basically anything. Like up here, we're going to have potential mob spawning, because this is kind of outside of our project of what we've worked on so far. But down here, below this wall level, this is our phase 1 sort of area. And this is what we're really trying to finish up. And we'll just keep an eye out for any spots that still pop out mobs. But I think we're getting pretty close to getting it all nailed away. I might come in and treat some of this area with some moss blocks, just because the grass in this area, the color of it, doesn't really blend too much with the moss carpet that I'm using to cover up any glowstone we're using to illuminate the area. There we go. I like how that came together. The 3 sections in the middle, each having their own high roof, combined with the long roof that kind of comes off on the end, creating that separate look. I think it all comes together pretty well. I mean, look at this. This gives a nice little feel, a little quaint townhome look. It is varied without being obnoxiously overdone. The little yellow windows up in the top part makes it look like there's a light on in the attic. That's kind of neat. And maybe I just need to do something to put a top on these little individual stables. I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm doing with those yet. Those were kind of a late add-on, just trying to give more definition and shape to the overall structure, so it wasn't quite so rectangular. But overall, this is a success, I think. The only question I have is, should I have connected that roof line so it goes straight across through the middle sections, as opposed to having it dip down and gap between the two? I kind of like the gap a bit, but at the same time, with it connected on this side and connected on that side, I'm not sure if it should feel like the middle ones should be connected as well. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think I should have done. And now that we are all done with project number 2, which is the row house, we will get on to our top priority project, which was adding life to this little open square. So to bring life to this central feature, I need a signal that is intermittent, turning on and off. And while I wanted something small, I needed to make something a little bit larger that could carry up in a small fashion. And that's where we end up with a very simple hopper clock, just moving the redstone back and forth, which will turn the torch on and off and drive my signal through onto this. This is why I hope that someday the functionality of the gloom gets added, because no matter how much I light up this first level, I still keep having zombies occasionally wander into the area, and I really have a hard time identifying where they're coming from. And now I kind of ran away a little bit off camera with the water feature, and really it was just because of a sense of scale. As we were working, it was pretty easy to get a central pillar of a redstone signal that would turn on and off all the way up at the top, just utilizing the hopper system that is down below. However, just trying to capture the sense of scale ended up being a little bit more of a challenge, and it's possible I didn't consider the overall size I really needed to capture my vision, because again, Minecraft, you have the big blocky, you're limited to certain sizes for certain things, and in this case I just had a little bit of trouble capturing a multi-tiered flow of a fountain without getting it to be, I don't know, maybe just a little too bulky, a little too out of place. As of right now, all of the copper here is wax, so it stays polished and shiny. I may at time come back, remove the wax and allow it to oxidize a little bit. I just don't want it to oxidize 100% or consistently throughout the entire thing, and I'm not really sure exactly where our golden ratio is going to be for achieving that level of age and tear. And that's just something I might have to either decide I'm good with staying all shiny and polished, even though, water running over copper, it's not, wouldn't stay very shiny for long in the real world, versus the balance of letting it oxidize slowly and partially in different parts. So, but let me walk through what we have. We went over the hover design down below, and then here in the lower section, we just have that piston that's driving a single block up and down behind the trapdoors. And because the trapdoors have that transparency, and we did use a weathered copper block for that, it does give us the sense of a piston or a pump driving up and down, which is going to hinge on observer, which leads into a dispenser. And so when that piston drives up, that dispenser at the top fills up the pipe with water there, but it doesn't actually flow out yet. It hits another observer and another dispenser to give it that sense of carrying the water from down below up to the top and then pouring out. It's subtle, it doesn't really show up. Our use of the particle effects, you'll occasionally see water dripping down from different spots. It's all meant to tie together to create a lasting image of a actual functioning water pump carrying the water up through the pipes to create the fountain effect. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the end, I think we were able to make the size work. Maybe it might be better if we had the room to extend out the basin, maybe 2 or 3 blocks out further, and that might have even given us a little bit more room to play with different aspects for splitting the water stream. But the overall effect, I feel we have accomplished at this point. Sometimes people really love to hate on Bedrock, and I get that. I mean, the first time I went to the nether roof because I saw a bunch of people building up there, I'm like, oh, that'd be useful. And got trapped on an infinite plane of bedrock that I could do nothing on. Yeah, that was somewhat annoying. But ultimately, there are still some nice advantages to bedrock, such as being able to get the coral fans basically anywhere you have water, just with a little bit of bone meal. If you have bone meal and some too deep water, you can just come out here and just collect these nice little colorful bits. And I know Java players who are watching right now really wish they had this functionality. And I went down to pick up some of this stuff out of the water, just because, ultimately I was looking and I'm like, God, my fountain's just a little bit plain. Let's color it up a little bit. We're aiming for random but not overly crowded. But there we go. Now we're getting a nice colorful fountain. Gorgeous streams coming off the top. Multiple splits, multiple flows. And I think that pretty much ties up our third project for the day. So I brought a bunch of villagers over from my villager breeder / iron farm just to kind of try and kickstart the life back into this village. And obviously, I don't know, villager pathfinding just does not make sense. I mean, it's nighttime, none of them is latched onto the original villager house beds. Oh wait, one of them did. But still, generally speaking, they're not good at finding their path around, and that's really the biggest roadblock to try and maintain a healthy village in Minecraft is the villagers themselves just don't want to be a healthy village. They want to wander around until they all die or despawn or disappear. It's kind of frustrating sometimes. But at the end of the day, we are working with what we are working with, and maybe someday I might have a plan specifically to keep specific villagers along certain tracks to give more of an illusion that they're coming and going. But for now, this is where we're at, and this is what we are working with. We do have some villagers coming about, and we'll see how the future brings as they get settled in. And hopefully not too many die as the occasional mob that still spawns comes up, as we are still obviously trying to figure out all the areas that mobs are spawning and being drawn into the village, such as that one over my shoulder. But we'll take care of them, we'll take care of our villagers, and we will keep working, for this is the latest episode of Shifted Reality. And if you watched this far, I do hope you like and subscribe, leave a comment. Those are more helpful than you might expect. And as always, until next week, have a good one, everyone. Bye.